so everybody's going to be able to see that we are actually live on Facebook and YouTube momentarily as we get ready to kick things off right here again, y'all, on columbusblack.com. What we're doing is a very, very special event today. This is the countdown to Election Day, y'all. This is official, okay? It is August 6th, 2024, and it is about to go down. So we have some special guests that are going to be with us today that I'm going to be introducing to you all. But before we do that, I want to make sure every one of you are fully aware of who we are. So columbusblack.com has been around for nearly 20 years now. We are an online omni-channel platform here in Central Ohio. We connect the Black community and others, of course, to commerce and to culture in this amazing city of ours in Central Ohio. I am the founder of Columbus Black, and I'm super excited to be here today as we're going to have a very important and educational discussion as it relates to Election Day 2024, and this is officially the countdown. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists that will be joining us today, or should I say I'm going to let them introduce themselves today so you all can get to know them a little bit better. You'll understand why they are here as we have our kickoff event. We will be doing this every Tuesday leading up to Election Day, and then we'll do something very special on Election Day for you all as well as our listening and viewing audience. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do, if you're on social media, we will be monitoring the chat along the show today. I'm going to ask you to go ahead. If you have a question, you have a thought, if you see what's going on, you want to share this, right? Don't just hear this, share this with your audience as well. Just hit that share button, and that way we can make sure everyone that needs to hear about this can actually hear about it. Now, something special about what we're going to talk about today, by the way, the focus is civic engagement, right? To educate our community, to mobilize our community, and make sure everyone has the insight and information that they need to know as it relates to voting for this particular election day at all levels, right? So it's the local, that is the state, and the national level. We want to make sure you are mobilized. So with that being said, we're going to start off. We're going to do it ladies first. So Tracy Maxwell Heard is on the line with us. Would you please introduce ourselves to our listening and viewing audience?
Yes. Good evening. And thank you, Kevin, for creating this platform for us to have this conversation this evening. And thank you to my co-panelists who are here with me, Al and Carter. It's great to see you both and to be with you. My name is Tracy Maxwell Heard, and I'm the former minority leader in the Ohio House of Representatives. I'm the current CEO of Millennium Solutions, Inc., a consulting firm that I started back in 1999, and we focus on public policy and nonprofit development. I'm the proud wife of 24 years to Howard Heard, and I'm currently working in partnership with Ohio Unity Coalition on voter registration and Get Out the Vote.
Outstanding, outstanding. So you come with some really pretty dynamic credentials for an event like this. So thank you for joining us and making the time today. We appreciate it. You got it. All right, Al Edmonson, we're going to turn it over to you because it's definitely a cut above the rest.
Hey, thanks, Kev. Thanks for having us, man. And thank you for this platform. My name is Al Edmonson, owner of a Cut Above the Rest barbershop, president of the Mount Vernon District Improvement Association, and CEO of Making a Difference. And I've done Rock the Vote every year, organizing people through the community to get out the vote. Even during COVID, we did a campaign for absentee registration, and we registered over 3,500 people to get out, do registration and help people out in their neighborhood, making sure that was during the COVID time. So I'm happy to be here to talk about a little bit about Project 25, then also talk about how people can get engaged in being a poll worker and being a day driver and being a part of the election process.
Outstanding, outstanding. I would say your credentials are not too shabby either. Not too shabby at all. We're proud to have you here. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for all you do in the community as well. We're going to lead into Dr. Carter D. Womack to wrap us up on the panelist introductions. This is all yours, Carter.
Well, good evening, and thank you again, Kevin, for hosting us. I'm Dr. Carter D. Womack, a former city councilman for the city of Akron, Ohio. Most people don't know of my political background, but I served as a city councilman in Akron for 5 years, past international president of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, number 27 and 29, as well as the past national president of the National Panhellenic Council. I am one of the co-conveners of the Columbus Coalition of Black Men. It's a Black Men's Voting Collective. We organized in light of the overturn of Roe v. Wade, when the big push was going on in Ohio to make it a law that women had a right to make that choice. So we led that big effort with the Black Men's Voting Collective, and we are now joining back. We're now back in this fight for this election, and I'll be straight up. We are coming to support Kamala Harris, all that she brings to the table. So there's going to be no secret. We are voting as Black men under the theme that the Black men owning our power, the power of our voice, the power of our unity, the power of our vote. And we're going to turn the numbers up like we did when we worked collectively to pass the right for women to make their own choices about their bodies. So glad to be here.
Well, you know what, Carter, first of all, thank you very much for all that you do, all the credentials as well, clearly well represented. As you all can tell, we have a nice, diverse array of panelists today, but they bring an amazing amount of experience, especially when it comes to either running for a position or doing the work in our community. These people have done the work, and that's why we have you here today. Now, Carter, you kind of did a little bit of a segue into where we were going to go, which was when I sent this out and I said, hey, we're going to talk about this, the countdown to election day. We're going to talk about the who, the what, the why, the when, the where, right, and the how. And we said no cap. And for those that don't know what no cap means, we're telling the truth, no lies, right? This is no lie. This is not fake news here. The first question I had was, when I reached out to you, you seemed to be a little excited about being on the show. What was the real reason why you said, man, let's do this? Why is this such a passion for you? Like, you were so energized when I mentioned it to you. Would you please tell us why?
Well, a couple of reasons. Columbus is the 14th largest city in the United States of America, and most people don't know that. So when all these other cities and all these other organizations are having calls to raise money, to energize people of all races, Black women started off and they raised $1.5 million, and they did it with so many women. Then the Black gay men did it, and they raised a whole lot of money. Then the Black men did it, and they did a whole lot of money. Then the white boys, the white guys did it, and they raised more money than anybody else in this conversation. And then I talked to Al, I said, what are we doing in Columbus? What is the Black community doing in Columbus to say that we're going to rally our men, and we talked about men, but rally everybody in Columbus to get out, get engaged, and let's support the opportunity to make sure that Donald Trump does not get in the White House ever again.
Okay, so that's why he was excited. If y'all didn't know, now you know. All right, Tracy, how about you? I'm sure there was something that was brewing in you too, and when you heard, hey, we're about to do this show, it fired you up. What was it? Oh, I think you're on mute. You're on mute. There we go.
You're still on mute.
Of course, I had to be the first one. There we go. For me, the excitement was around just the importance of engagement for this cycle. And, every election year, we say this is the most important election in our lifetime, especially if it's a presidential year. And unfortunately, that's become kind of like a trite saying, but this really is pivotal, critical. I mean, there are so many things that are going to happen based on who the next president is that are going to affect the next 50 to 100 years. So this really, really is, Supreme Court, appellate court appointments, decisions that are going to be made by the people sitting on those courts, not to mention, legislation that will come through Congress and through all of our levels of government. But it's really critical that the people's voices are heard this time, and that we all understand that we have to hold everyone accountable, not just the electeds, but we have to hold ourselves accountable, which means we have to be engaged. We can't vote out of spite. We can't not vote because we don't like the people out there. We have to really get engaged this time and pay attention and find trusted sources to educate ourselves on what's true and what's not true, because there's a lot of lies floating around out there. But there are sources that we can turn to, especially within our community, like Columbus Black, to educate us on what's true, what's really happening, and what are the important things we should be focusing on as a Black community, and to get that information and share it throughout the community.
Absolutely, absolutely. That engagement piece so important. And
Sure.
you mentioned the courts, right? I think
Mhm.
sometimes we think about a specific candidate, but the courts and the decisions that are being made.
Right.
Yeah, that's why we're here. But we're going to talk more about that. We're going to get a little bit deeper. So, Al, on your end, man, you catch a lot, especially at the shop. You hear a lot, you see a lot. So, what? You already working on some things, but what got you excited about the show tonight?
Well, man, I just I'm a soldier, man. So I like being boots on the ground, brother. And when election time come up, I'm always ready. And ready to go to make sure we get our right candidates in there, man. And I just I love organizing folks to get out to vote too. And then also some of the things that we probably talk about later on is getting people involved in the election process, being a poll worker, being a day driver, working these polls, because this last election that they had recently, I was a dispatcher, and I saw some flaws, things that happened that I said, ooh, we got to get up, we got to organize, and I already knew. So I'm already ready. I'm fired up, man. I'm just glad to have be on your show once again, and we're gonna make this happen, brother. I can't wait to Sunday though.
All right, that's what's up. Sunday, you can't wait to Sunday. Hold on a second. That's the segue. We're going to keep on going. But one of the things I realized I didn't forewarn everybody, including our panelists, that there's some gems that are going to be dropped on this show. Y'all going to see me go like this. And when I go like that, that means gems are being dropped. It's going to be a whole lot of exercise going on. I'm going to be buffed up in a minute because I already know the knowledge is about to happen. Let's drop those gems. So, Al, let's jump in. Let's go back to Sunday. What do you mean, Sunday? You can't wait to Sunday. What are you talking about?
Well, Sunday, man, we organizing the African American men to come out for a rally, and we want to register some of the people in our community to be ready to go to the polls. And we're gonna have a couple of speakers come and talk and get a big rally up, and we have the news out here, and we want to make a statement that Black men in Central Ohio are going to vote.
Okay.
We're gonna get them all out to vote. We're gonna get them out to vote. And so that's our goal this year, to make sure we rally these young men up. Bring your son, bring your cousins, bring your grandfather, bring those kids that ain't ever vote before, because when they took civics out of schools, they destroyed it. So our kids don't know what they don't know. I talk to these kids every day, and they're like, well, why should I vote? They ain't done enough for me. But needs to say, you start talking to them about this is going to affect you down the road. If you have kids, or your mom, why your mom get put out of place because she can't afford a housing no more. So all these things that come in play in this election can be taken care of if we vote for the right person.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Tracy, I'm going to come to you for a second, because we continue to hear, especially in mass media, that this is not just the most important election, because we hear that all the time, and it was just said a moment ago, but the most consequential election is what we hear. But why is this one so pivotal? Like, for people that don't understand, right, from your lens, what is your perspective of why this one is so consequential as far as what's on the line?
Well, just as you said, because of what's on the line, there's going to be, the next president is going to appoint 2 more Supreme Court justices. That's going to set the court for probably the next, as I said, 50 to 100 years. Who those people are is going to make a difference in so many decisions that are going to be happening in our nation, that impact everything from women's reproductive rights to, the term that a presidential candidate can have, to all of our constitutional issues. That's one of the things that there's so many rumblings about right now, is what is our Constitution going to look like post this next presidency. We usually don't muck around with that too much. We do things at the state level with the our state constitutions, but when it comes to the U.S. Constitution, those are really big moves. But things that are being discussed are, like changing the term of the presidency, to no limits, looking at things like Project 2025. And I know we may talk about that some more later, but people really need to go out and educate themselves about that. It's a 920-page document. It is all posted online. I know a lot of people don't have time to read 920 pages, but there are so many synopses of that. And again, trusted educators, trusted influencers who have done synopses of this and pulled out different important parts. You know, everyone from Taraji P. Henson to Barack Obama to, you know, anyone that is involved in this political landscape here has been watching this, because what comes if there is a conservative sitting in the White House, it's going to change the complexion of this nation totally. And I'm talking about rewinding the clock back, you know, things like the Department of Education, no more, immunity for police. And when we're looking at community policing right now, that's huge, and that's really dangerous to the Black community. So, you know, minimum wage, big deal, but we're talking about things that we thought decisions had already been made about, and things that could take us back as minorities in this community, you know, decades.
Is
And
that
trying to take my Social Security.
hold up? Hey, but don't worry about it. We're coming to you next, Carter. So you can add on to why you feel like this is so consequential. And then I know on the Project 2025, I know Al is chomping at the bit to get to that a little bit later too. So, but that's such an important piece. But Carter, once you jump in here, right? Like why, from your perspective, and then especially because I know you've been really focused on Black men voting, right? Owning our vote and our power. And so won't you jump in here?
Well, for me, the whole thing around Black men owning our power as we focus on what should be our message, and among the discussions was Black men regaining our power, Black men defining our power, and we ended on, we didn't lose our power. We always had it. We just did not necessarily own it. So this whole conversation is to focus on how do we understand and educate Black men and educate Black people in general, that we all have our power within us. But how do we own it? And we own it through our voices, we own it through our unity, and we own it through our vote. And Tracy talked about all the national things, but we need to be also looking at the state level issues and the local level issues. Supreme Court judges are coming up. There's an opportunity for Ohio to take the Supreme Court back from the conservatives to be more liberal. That is there. This whole discussion that is going on about gerrymandering. There's a whole new piece coming up on gerrymandering. And what does that look like? Should we vote for it? Should we vote against it? We need to understand what that piece is being done, because when I saw the gerrymandering information come on TV, and they were showing all the people that was out here gathering the information and getting the signatures, because they gathered 700,000 signatures, only needed 4,000, but 5,000 came through its passage. But most of those people I saw were not Black. I saw people out there helping, getting all those ballots. So what does that mean? Does this legislation mean? And we need to dig into that and understand it. Should we vote for it? Should we go vote against it? And we need to understand that stuff. And the focus for us is how do we get more young people involved? As I shared with some people today, we are reaching out to the young people at Ohio State University. The student government president for the undergraduates is a Black male. 2 Black males, president and vice president. So we're in conversation with them about how do we pull them together to educate them and they educate other young people. I'm going to take a break, but don't mess with my Social Security.
Don't mess with his Social Security. That's right. That's an important one. That's, you know, don't mess with the pockets, right? So he worked too hard to get to the bag to mess with it.
That's right.
All right, good stuff, good stuff. Thank you for sharing that. A lot of gems dropped, as y'all can see, right? I'm working out already, and even Al jumped in. He started dropping gems too. So listen, Al, we're going to go to you because what was just said, right, is really, really important. You're, like you said, you like to be boots on the ground. You just talked about how you were part of, you know, past elections and so on and so forth. What are some of the tips that you want to share, because you realize like this is so important? You're looking at activating the community, mobilizing, getting, you say you get everybody out. Black men, you want everybody to go vote, right? But you also hear a lot of things. What is some of the resistance and then some of the tips and tricks that you have to say, let's get everybody mobilized because this is real?
And so I want to start with just saying, if people are afraid to go to the polls, do absentee registration, and then you can track your ballot. Secondly, if you're going to go to the polls, make sure you early vote and get it done early. Start getting together right now. We pretty much know who's going to be on the ballot. If you can go to the Board of Elections, it's going to show you everybody who's going to be there. Get ready now. Pre-plan what time you're going to go to the polls. You know, think about being a poll worker, you know, so you can get that out the way. and then you can make some little money on the side and helping out, making sure our community is representative at the polls, not just going to the polls, but they're helping people out, making sure people don't nick the ballots. Because like I said, the last time, this guy who was one of my day drivers, he nicked 116 ballots. And I'm like, hold up, dog. You got to bring those ballots to me. And so I had him calling me at 116 ballots spoiled, really. And so the game is about, we got to get ready.
Ooh.
We got to get ready. I'm serious. We got to get ready. And then
Wow.
also take your children to the polls.
Yes.
Because if they don't know. I talk to a lot of kids because their parents don't vote. They don't vote. So they got to come to the barbershop, the beauty shop, or talk to somebody saying, why is it important to vote? So we got to be intentionally talking to our young group of kids. And, you know, starting in high school, like I said, you go middle school, take them to the polls with you. They're going to let you, they'll let them out of school for the day, you know, but needs to say, you know, we have to be all hands on deck. Our democracy is at hand right now. And so if we don't get it right, it's going to be ugly. But like I tell everybody, it's God's will, whatever happens.
God's will. God's will. All right. So Tracy, I saw you shake your head a couple of times. You've been through this process a lot. We know that there are people who are on the fence. There are people who have felt disenfranchised. There's people who don't understand the full significance. So, which is why we're here. But just like Al just did, are there some things that we should know? Like everybody, the basic fundamentals that we need to know so that we can get people out to vote and understand how serious this really is, from your experiences?
Sure. I'd say, again, validators and registration. You know, nothing happened. The most important thing that's going to happen is counting of the votes. But, you know, we have to make sure people are registered, that they actually get out and cast their ballot, and that the ballot gets counted. So one of the things that Al said is really key. Looking out for tricks and slick maneuvers this time is really going to be important. Our poll workers are really going to be important. Your ballot, everyone's always worried about, is their ballot counted? Yes, all ballots are counted, but you know, there are little slick things going on where they may get a pen stroke across your ballot or something. You know, when you're casting your ballot, make sure you watch it all the way through, it going into that machine and being, you know, that's where it actually becomes an official part of the count. Watch everything that everyone is doing with your ballot. That is your property, you know, until that thing goes through the machine and comes back out. It absolutely is. Other tips and tricks. We have information that we're going to share with you to put up on Columbus Black. QR code, and you will find this not just from the Ohio Unity Coalition, but National Coalition of 100 Black Women. So many people, you will find this place. I know Al, I'm sure he's going to have it up in his shop, where you can actually just scan the code and it will take you to the site to find out if you are still registered, because we're focusing on registering unique voters. That's really important. But there have been 158,000 people purged from the rolls by the Secretary of State, and people are not aware of that. So they're registered. Oh yeah, and I voted and whatever. You've got to be absolutely sure. So check to make sure and confirm that your registration is still current. If not, register again. You know, again, check for shenanigans and make sure that you are bringing people along with you. You know, get that QR code. You know, make sure you have the website for people. You can register online so that you can tell people, if you find out people in your network are not registered, you can give that to them. It's just too easy for us to drop the ball this time. And it takes minutes. We're not talking hours. We're not talking going out of your way. It couldn't be more convenient than it is now. A QR code and a link to register online. So we need people to do that and be accountable for themselves and to be accountable for their communities. So your family, have every single one of them do it as well, because we need them to show up at the polls and make sure that their votes are counted as well.
I just heard some serious due diligence is needed. Do not take anything for granted. Absolutely. And be cautious, right? Because there's all kind of tricks going on out there. Did you say 158,000?
Yes, sir.
Removed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So everybody should be saying, am I one of the 158,000 is what I'm hearing?
That is correct.
Oh, okay. Okay. Made loud and clear, y'all.
Kev, if I can say this, sometimes it even can be a way how you sign your name. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't sign my name like I used to, so I have to go back and check. If I want to do my autograph sign, it's a different way that I do my ballot sign. So you got to make sure you have to do it, because that's what they try to do. At this last election, I signed my autograph, but I didn't sign my whole name, and my whole name was on there because I've been at the same place for years and years, and so now I sign it quick, the autograph. So you got to make sure your signature matches up with your registration. That's one key.
Okay. Wow. Heavy. Yeah. We got to watch it. Got to be careful. So Carter, why don't you jump in here? Do you have anything to add there? If not, I want to talk about activations and some of the things that are coming up. I know you've been working on this mobilization as well, and some serious efforts. We want to get into that, unless you want to add on to any tips or tricks or fundamental things you've seen that you're like, beware.
No, I think they covered those big points. Okay. And I think that the big things that we will talk about based on your other questions will all flow together. Let's roll.
Okay, so let's jump into that. Because we can talk about, hey, go vote. And like Al said, okay, he's working on the rally, but at the end of the day, we know it's more than talk, right? So what are you doing, or what are you hearing other people doing that our community should be aware of? These things are happening so that people don't have to feel like we should do something, because we hear it all the time. We need to do something. It's things happening. So let's talk about it.
I would say the establishment of the Black Men's Voting Collective really started with 3 or 4 of us. Really started with me and Al and Joe Clark and a couple of other folks about what do we need to be doing as Black men to get involved in voting. And that started when, really a couple of years back, when we started looking at the Democratic Party coming to the Black men 30 days before the election. We got to go to the barbershop because we got to get the Black men out to vote. Post-COVID, Black men ain't in barbershops like they were before COVID. We go to the barbershop, get our haircut, pay Al, and then we leave. So we aren't there just chewing the fat. So that brought us into this conversation about how do we as Black men form this collective. And we started that really with the Divine Nine. We started with the conversation with the fraternities and the sororities. And we didn't leave the sororities out because they got husbands and brothers, etc., that helped build us in this first activity that we did around the women and protecting their choice. So that's how we started this. I think that's going to be critical for us to pull this group of male organizations. It is not just the Divine Nine. They're the Shriners groups. They're the 100 Black Men. They're the Corvette groups. They're all those organizations that we need to be going to their meetings, having conversations with them. And we're in the discussions about one of the rallies is going to be a start, but having some small group meetings and planning what is it that we want to put in front of people that want to get them excited and engaged about this most critical opportunity for us as a people. And I'm going to use this term, for us as a people to be able to say that we have worked together, collectively voted to elect the first female president who is Black, even though somebody don't know that she's Black, but we know that she's Black. So we need to be putting all the stops out to get all of us excited the best way that we can be. And as we wrap up, we can go over with some of the things that we got on the list of things to do.
Yeah, so I said earlier, no cap. There's no cap there. Look at him. He's letting it out the bag, yo. He held back as long as he could, but here we go. All right. So let's take it a step further from there, because I want to definitely get a little bit more into this Project 2025 piece, because we need to educate folks there, but also from a policy standpoint, right? Like, one of the things that's coming up as we hear on the news a lot, and this is going to be at every level, right? So we need to pay attention to it. It's not about personality. It's about policy. What's the impact? Because at the end of the day, you could be cool, but if you stabbing me in my back and you cool, that doesn't help, right? So when we get down to the facts of what's on the table from a policy standpoint, what are just a few? Like, if y'all just want to throw out what's most dear to you, right? I know I heard Social Security earlier, but there's like a litany of them. Like, for our community, the Black community, what should we be concerned about? Anybody can start.
I can start.
Okay.
I can start.
Go ahead.
Not all at once. Not all at once. Go ahead.
So I think it's we have a big housing issue in our community. You know, all these homeless people that's out here, and we got to find ways to help them out. And of course, our neighborhoods are the values are increasing and pushing them out of the city. And it's all been designed. And the United Way has a thing that shows you how they gentrify these neighborhoods to put, to push people back out into the suburbs and then move back in and take over and put people out of their houses. But I think the housing issue is a concern, is something that needs to happen. Also, we got to think about the education system. The education system, we have to continue to work with that. And by me being on that task force, I learned a lot about how they run their operation, as far as the Board of Education and the Board of what's the
School board.
I forget the ones that didn't make the vote yet. It's the Board of Education. So I'm just thinking, though, those are issues that I'm always concerned about. Housing, because our people are out here right outside my barbershop, sleeping out here every day in the sun. They sleep out there in the rain. They got to find a place to stay. They sleeping in churches. They sleeping in boxes. They just laying on the ground all around. And I think we need to, I care for people. So we need to continue to help these people out here that's getting put out of housings.
That's real talk, y'all. Those are facts, y'all. So the gems being dropped. And what I want to do is I want to share as a part of that too, is we have to understand the growth that we have happening in Columbus, Ohio, and Central Ohio, these corporations coming in, and how, guess what, the cost of living is getting higher and higher. So when we talk about affordable housing, it's a real thing, and it's going to become even realer real soon. So thank you for starting with that one. Who wants to go next? Major policy issue, major factor on the line.
I'll jump in. I'm with Al on education, and the reason that education is so critical this cycle is because we're talking about something as big as literally eliminating the U.S. Department of Education. I mean, that's not something you just do lightly. And then what happens? What are the repercussions once that happens? Public education is already in distress. So if there is no hierarchy that is managing that, has oversight over that, how does that then impact what education is out there, what our students are learning? And this is all ultimately connected to DEI, which is another thing that we're going to have. People don't really understand the impact and the depth of how that is going to be so pervasive in every area, not just education. When we're talking about policing, huge thing. When your agenda says you're going to send the National Guard out in response to any protest, that's a direct threat. And I don't know how many people are old enough to remember Kent State, but that didn't end well. And that's the kind of response that they're talking about. And then on top of that, you're giving immunity to police, which means all of the drama that has been happening in our communities will continue to escalate because there will be no consequences. And back to what Carter said about women's reproductive health, whatever your moral center is around abortion, you have to think beyond and around that, because abortion is a hot button issue. The far right has taken the pro-choice moniker and turned it into pro-abortion, which it never was. It's about giving space for women to make decisions about their own bodies. You make decision about yours based on your code, your faith, et cetera, and allow others to have, that same right to do that. But it's deeper than that, because they're already talking about, okay, how will this now, what can we do to stop in vitro fertilization? What can we do around women who have their eggs taken out and fertilized? Well, you're now responsible for bringing every single one of those lives to term. And then how does that expand out into other health decisions that we currently have the authority to make for ourselves? It's a real slippery slope, and it's going to get slick real fast. And those are things that we have to pay attention to. It's not always that thing right in front of you, but we have to think down the line in terms of, if we allow this, what happens next? And are we okay with that? So there are a number of other things, but those are really big ones for me right now.
Those are really heavy ones too.
I got my passport.
If you look at other things, then you also start to be looking at marriage equality. What does that look like? If we got rid of, we've got rid of the abortion issue, now you're going to attack marriage equality. And then you listen to what the Republican president is proposing. that they're going to eliminate federal jobs, the rights for people who are federal employees. They can fire them when they come to office. Because right now, when a new administration comes in, the law says you cannot touch those federal employees who are hired and paid that every day to continue to do the work of the government, so the government does not close down. So their focus is when they come in, we're going to change the law, you're fired. And I'm going to bring in all of my cronies, and then we're going to run the departments or close them down and eliminate consistency and impact all of our lives across the country. So there are some big issues there, and the mentality of the people that want to be king being king.
Y'all over here, I'm dropping gems, but I'm just speechless. It's so heavy. Like, and the thing is, like, people have got to understand, and that's the reason why we're doing this, y'all. So I'm gonna ask you again, when you watch this, we don't want you to just hear this. We need you to share this. Like, seriously, people need to hear this and listen. And if there's questions, you'll be able to drop it in the thread, right? We'll pay attention to that and we will answer those questions, but we've got to be able to make sure that the facts are out there. No cap, y'all. The facts, okay? So listen, we want to jump into this 2025 before we run out of time. So Al, I'm actually going to come back to you. I know Tracy jumped in a little bit early. We kind of hit it a little bit here and there. There are some key things that you've been focused on around Project 2025 to try to simplify and educate our community. I'm going to turn it over to you to jump into that real quick, okay?
Okay, yep. So I know Project 2025 is 900 pages, but I did a summary for it. And I looked at the key things that affect us as African-Americans and Black folks and anybody else. So first of all, we talked about government reconstruction, eliminating federal departments. This plan calls to abolish the U.S. Department of Education and U.S. Department of Commerce, among others. So what that means is, like, the commerce, get rid of education, it might, books are gone, and those things like that. When you think of it, and Tracy probably knows about this, as far as Department of Commerce, can you talk about that a little bit, Tracy?
Well, sure. I mean, that has to do with big business and regulation and taxation, and what the cover that they will have that the average American will not have. And when you're looking at who people, we are dealing with a candidate who has been president before, and I'm coming to this from a bipartisan perspective this cycle. But you just look at what people say. When people tell you what their agenda is, you have to accept that and believe that it's true, no matter how far-fetched it sounds. Don't write it off. Oh, he'll never do that. Oh, it can't happen. No, yes, it can. And when you pay attention to who his allegiance was to the last time, it is that top 1%. So that's the commerce piece. And the biggest piece of that is the taxation piece, and how average people are going to get hurt and business is going to be covered.
Right. And then next is increased presidential power, seeks to enhance presidential control over independent agencies such as the Federal Communications, and appoint actions officials to Senate confirmations and are delayed. And so basically, you can be a newscaster, and if they ain't like what you seeing or what you saying, talking about, like that guy in Russia, they can go put you in jail.
That's it.
Put you in jail. And then social economic policies, cut social programs. Project 25 is cutting overtime protections, restricting access to food assistance, and eliminated programs like Head Start. Who's that going to affect?
Us.
Everybody.
Hold on. Do me a favor. You need to recite that again. That last part. Yeah, please.
Cut social programs, cutting overtime protections, restricting access to food assistance, and eliminating programs like Head Start.
So that's unions and all of our safety nets that we call them. So because the unions are the ones that have historically established that standard around pay, work week, overtime, all of those, and those things trickle down to people who even aren't in unions, because they set the foundation for that, and then that just becomes the standard. And everything else that he mentioned there, that's for those of us who are struggling and, trying to recover and trying to get back on their feet and everything. So then what happens when those safety nets aren't there, and how will they respond to that? People are going to do what they have to do to survive. So
Yeah, exactly.
Then where do you find yourself?
And another one is healthcare restrictions. The plan includes eliminating access to medication, abortions, and pushing Medicare recipients towards private options.
And those are things that we've already paid for.
Yeah.
And pay for every day through our taxes.
Yeah. And then also doing the social economic policies are climate and energy policies. It intends to block federal subsidies, renewable energies, cut funding for the Environmental Protection Agency, and oppose state level pollution standards.
Yep.
And I got to jump in on that one again too. Because everyone, when we say environment, everyone wants to go to the polar bears and the rainforest. Rainforest is critical. Polar bears, love them, but that's not my first priority. When you're talking about environmental issues, you're talking about the electric grids and where they are, in our communities, and how they're maintained. And when they're not maintained, what are the health fallouts that impact our communities as a result of that? When you're talking about EPA regulations and what emissions industry is allowed to make in our communities, because they're in our backyards, all of this is happening in our community. When those our protections are reduced, we're the ones that are impacted first by that.
Correct.
And, it's been happening for decades. It's not anything new. Michigan, they still haven't fixed the situation in Michigan with the lead in their water.
The water.
Then you're talking about, are they even responsible for that? Are they even required to address that? So yeah, you're talking about anarchy, and you're talking about the absence of accountability for anyone who can't afford to take care of themselves. And by the way, that's all of us, because whenever people start talking about getting rid of government and someone says, okay, well, what about your trash? And, what about all of these services that government does, then they want to back off. It's like, yeah, it's not an either or, it's like you either want government or you don't want government.
Right. And I can piggyback on that because I'm working with the health department to use my next door to do lead testing for kids in our neighborhood. And people don't understand that these people that are in these neighborhoods like this, they have to be tested for lead. And I was like, I thought that was like years ago when they did all that. But guess what? It's back because of the way they're building the housing. And then now things are coming up through the water and all these different things. So those are things that they're going to get rid of that can more than likely kill us.
Absolutely.
So this is these are a couple, I only got two more to go. The civil rights and inclusion, rolling back protections. The project aims to dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, within the Department of Defense and other areas, while undermining the LGBTQ rights and all civil rights advances. So
biggest one there to me is the Voter Rights Act. Most people aren't really aware of this, but this is something that comes up. Thank you. For renewal. Why are we renewing that? Why is that not a permanent right for us, just like, everybody else? So people don't even think about how vulnerable we still are as a community with something as basic as our Voting Rights Act. And then again, as I said earlier, DEI, how that impacts everything else. And when you're talking about military and how they're planning to then use the military, so eliminate the minorities so that, you have a majority white military that you're going to empower to deal with everyday citizens. We don't do that now in this country. The military does not deal with private citizens, but that's what they're about to do.
Right. And I got two more to go. The educational impact. There are plans to cut funding for public schools, remove protections that ensure safe and inclusion educational environments. So they're going
They're gonna all be woke. They're gonna all be woke, as they call it.
Yeah.
But not woke to us. They're gonna write us out completely.
Right. That's right.
Completely. And then last but not least, the economic impact, workforce and wage policies. The initiative seeks to reduce minimum wage protections and workplace safety regulations, which could negatively impact workers' rights and safeties. And that's all union.
Absolutely.
All union. So
and how far back does that roll the clock back when we're not even safe? There are no protections for us in any working environment. So there's no compensation if you're injured on the job. Then you lose your job. You have no insurance protections, in that environment. That's all big stuff. Sounds like plantation life to me again. And, that's not hyperbole, but, people are talking about, oh my God, we'll be back on the plantation. And, white women are talking about, what's the television show?
Survivor?
No,
No.
the one about the women and oh my goodness, why can't I say
There's
it?
so many of them.
Well, yeah, the one where it's time basically goes back and
Oh,
it's a
okay.
white man's world.
That's right.
Handmaid's Tale. That's it. Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
You know, we're not
And,
far from that. If
and they're back in
half
they're back in the
of
house.
yes, if half of what Project 2025 says comes to pass, both of those realities will be our existence.
Mhm.
And that's not an exaggeration. And, you know, the
No.
fact that people aren't taking it seriously is very, very scary because, you know, it's real and it can happen very quickly.
Right. I
And
totally
this,
agree
and
with
this
you, 'cause
message about saying we won't go back, we need to take that very seriously.
Absolutely.
That should be our mantra. It should be all on our shirts, on our cars. We won't go back. So if that's what you're thinking, no, we ain't going back. So we have to fight to make sure that we are not going back. And that's only going to happen if we get our, as my mother would say, get our rusty dusters up and get ourselves out to vote and bring along with us everybody else that needs to know this, might not learn it, but we got to educate and represent that group that don't know and convince them that we won't go back. And if we don't vote, we're going to be way back.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin, if I could just say one more thing, if you listen to what has been said by the conservative candidate here most recently, if he said two things that are very important. One was don't worry about voting. You know, you really don't have to vote. So that's a threat to our democracy right there. And, you know, what is it, something like 80 boards of election employees that have been put in place to block the certification of elections. You know, that's a big deal. That it's a stall, but it's still a big deal. But the scariest thing that was said was, if you vote for me, it'll be the last time you have to vote at all.
Yep.
So if that's not a lean into a dictatorship or an autocracy, I'm not sure what is, because if we're not voting anymore, you know, what is our governmental environment? We just gave up everything.
With the message.
Those are facts. Like it's real. Like, so I did a lot of listening intentionally. I wanted everybody else to hear what I just heard, right? No interruptions, no interjections, all knowledge base being dropped, right? Facts, documents that are online being dropped with some narrative to help break it down to understand the impact to each and every one of us. This stuff is so real. It seems unbelievable. And that's the challenge. It doesn't seem like it could be real after all the progress and the way we live today. You wouldn't even think that this is fathomable, but it's documented.
Sure. We forget how new these rights that we have are. Most of the rights, especially of Black people in this country, aren't even 100 years old.
Not 100 years
you know,
old.
some of them are more like around 50 years old. And then when you put women into that as well, you know, I mean, it was just, what was it? I saw this today. 1988 was when the first time when a woman could get a bank loan without her husband or father's signature.
That's right.
1977, I believe, is when the first time a woman could get a credit card in her name without husband or so, you know, when you're thinking about things that we just take for granted right now, these are things that happened in my lifetime.
Yep.
Yeah.
So huge. Those are the leanings that we're talking about. Those are the directions that they're, and the rights and securities that we as Blacks and as women are now taking for granted that are just decades old, not centuries.
And can I add to that too? Also, you know, all in that document, there's something in that they're leaving out as well, because it ain't all the detail. You know how you get your little taste of it, but it ain't all of it. It ain't all of it. And I believe that there's more to come with it that's in that document that they didn't share. They just made enough, you know, just to get everybody swirling around, but it's more to come if that happens. So that's why
if you go back and look at what happened when he got elected, they provided him a list of judges that he agreed to appoint, and all of them are super conservative. They're all in depth. They're all on the same page. So that's why he got off in Florida, because of that appointed judge. So all of that is orchestrated, and that was phase one of the orchestration. And Project 2025 is just a continuation of the plan that they put in place. It just got interrupted when he lost.
Right.
So him appointing those judges, all of them are judges in his pocket, and they're appointed for life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep.
Serious, right? It's all a part of a strategy and a plan that's being executed, y'all. There's a lot of strategy going on here. We need to pay attention. So listen, we're in our final minutes before we wrap up. But I got a couple of other things I want to talk about really fast. So at the local and at the state level, especially the state level, are there any things that are like really hot buttons that our community should be aware of that we need to talk about, local or state, that's critically important as well?
The judges.
Mm-hmm.
Those
Okay.
we have got to get behind those judges, those liberal judges, because we could swing the Supreme Court.
Absolutely.
We could swing the Supreme Court. We should definitely be putting our focus statewide and locally on the Supreme Court. We need to be looking at the local prosecutors that are running, who on this prosecutor list for Franklin County and the city that we should be backing, because those are people on the front line of protecting us and protecting our rights. So those to me are the two big things, as well as this conversation about gerrymandering. What side are we going to be on as a Black community? As I was telling someone, we need to come up with our own Black agenda. The Democrats might want to vote for something, but if it's not in the best interest of Black people, we should say, no, don't vote for it. And here's why we're saying that's something we should not have our names tied to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I just want to add to this.
Please.
What I don't know what the Democratic Party is doing in Columbus right now. I know we got all these commercials. Let's keep it real. Sherrod Brown came to the Lincoln Cafe to talk about his policies. That's the only person that came. But what are they waiting for? And that's why, remember in July when they did absentee registration, they say, why are you doing it in July? Because it's sunny, it's hot, people can get outside and you can go register people earlier. But where is the Democratic Party at? And when are they going to get activated, or if they activate at all? Because there's no signs out in the community. There's nothing out here. And we are under 100 days left, unless they're going to do a big push.
They're waiting for mid-September, that traditional time where they're going to call us and say, oh, can we come to the barbershop and get the Black men to vote?
Or to the churches.
It's the same old.
Absolutely.
So,
and we are 90 days out now. So I don't think we can wait for, the nod or the red flag from any party to say, it's go time, because I don't know if you've noticed, but that whole big GOTV voter registration that used to be driven by the party is no longer happening, so the base, who basically is us, has just kind of been become we've been taken for granted. So we have to take ownership and responsibility for that through things like the Ohio Unity Coalition, which is focused on registering Black people in our communities, targeting where we have the lowest registration, going out, door knocking, door to door. By the way, we're paying $20 an hour to do that, and doing phone banking to push that vote out. So getting people registered, getting people's registration confirmed, and then getting them to the polls, because we can't depend, and we should not wait for other people to come to us to tell us. We should be talking to our candidates and saying, here's what our agenda is. This is what our expectation is. And then those are the people that commit to that. Those are the people that we vote for. And then we follow through. We can't go to sleep after November 5th. Are they delivering, or are they not? And if not, you don't have to wait for people to term out. That's why we have democracy. We hire and fire through our vote. But Kevin had asked me earlier about the importance of, we were talking about voting the whole ballot, the whole ticket. That's critical because, when we're looking at the top of the ticket and all of the attention that's on our presidential candidates right now, you have to be realistic about what they can deliver on and who they need to help deliver on the commitments that they're making. So below them, you have to look at the U.S. Senate races, and you have to look at the congressional races.
That's right.
Because without them, it doesn't matter what he promises. He's going to be ineffective if he doesn't have that cooperation. Then you have to look at the governors, because as money's coming down from the federal government, one of the best examples was when Obama sent the transportation dollars here.
Mhm.
Then Governor Kasich said, no, thank you. And it went to Florida. So, you have crazy things like that happening where funding can come to your state and your governor can say no to that. Are those things that impact and support our communities? And then, going even further down, when we're looking at our council people and our mayors and our commissioners, et cetera, this is all one chain. And,
That's right.
decisions are made, at those different levels, but there's so much that depends and is connected from the presidency all the way down to, our local officials. And so we have to make sure that when we put our agenda out there and we say what's important, we're looking at all the people in that chain to
That's
make
right.
sure they're committed to that as well, and not just the president, and that we show up and vote that entire ballot.
Mic drop. Boom. All right. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Al, looks like you were going to say something. Did I stop you before it came out?
Nah, man. I agree. Say she was dropping the mic.
I'm
I'm done. Like Chris Rock. I'm
It's
gone.
like,
I'm dropping
done.
the mic.
Right. Enough said. All right. So now listen, it would be a disservice because of all of the things that are happening at the national level. We had a special announcement today. So Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, selected her running mate, Tim Walz, right? So at this point in time, everybody's getting ready for the DNC in a couple of weeks, late August in Chicago. At the same time, we all see that there's some attacks that are going on out there. We have said we're going to try to be nonpartisan from a Columbus Black standpoint, but at the end of the day, we know what needs to be done. I do want to throw it out there because of the fact of all the energy. If we look at what happened 2 weeks ago with the announcement by President Biden, and since then, the energy in our entire country has taken off, right? A whole nother level. And it looks like the race is going to look between the future and the past, right? As we go with closing remarks, any perspectives or thoughts that you all want to share while you have the platform in regards to the difference between the two candidates running for president and why it's so important that we are all engaged in regards to getting out to vote, specifically because of all the things y'all have already shared. But in light of the current candidates, I want to give y'all the opportunity to share your thoughts, perspectives there so people know where you're at.
Well, I'll just say, as the famous Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. And I think there is sufficient evidence from his previous presidency to all of the things that have been said during this campaign cycle as to what his priorities are, where his allegiance lies. And the same thing can be said of Vice President Kamala Harris. These people are speaking to us now, and we have to pay attention and listen to what they say, see if it lines up with what the priorities of our community are, and vote in our best interest. Our allegiance is not to that candidate. It's,
Right.
I think it's outstanding that there's a Black female on the ballot.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I still need to hear from that person
That's right.
policies and agendas that support and impact my community, even if you are a part of the community. As they say, all kinfolk are backward, whatever. You don't get an automatic pass just because you're a
Right.
woman. You
That's
don't get
right.
an automatic pass just because you're Black or you're a minority, whatever. We still have to have our criteria and our standards and our expectation, and those need to be presented to every candidate. And then we need to listen and pay attention and show up and vote our conscience and our community.
Boy, I'm going to be buffed in a minute. Who's next? Gems being dropped left and right. Al Carter, who's next?
Go ahead, Carter.
My message is really the fact that we cannot, as a people and a community, allow what we talk about reparation that we should have gotten because we were slaves. It's not what we should have gotten, it's what we should have been taking and demanding. We should be taking and demanding that those things happen. And the only way we take that is that we engage ourselves in our communities, in our young and old people, and we show up at the polls in mass numbers that like we've never shown up before. From the standpoint, Tracy said it very clearly. Donald Trump showed up showed us who he is, made it very clear who he is, and his master plan makes him want to be Putin number 2 in the United States of America, and that he will be king, gold hair forever, and then the legacy will be his children who will succeed him in those roles. We can't allow that to happen to us as a people and all of those others that have fought and died to get us to this point. So we just got to say, we won't go back, and we're going to do everything we can to get people to the polls, to vote, educate them, and show it with the power. I always tell people that Lyndon Baines Johnson did not sign the Civil Rights Act because he loved Black people. He was forced to. He saw John Lewis and all those people who got beat up on the Pettus Bridge, and so these Black folks are not going to go away. I got to do this. We got to calm this storm down, because he only signed it because he was pressured to do so. And if he didn't have to be pressured, we'll still be on the Pettus Bridge with John Lewis gone.
Ooh. Wow. Powerful, powerful, powerful. All right, Al, it's all yours. Wow.
Hey, Carter, thank you for those kind words. So it's just like a coach. You get in the game or sit on the bench in this one. If you sit on the bench, you're going to know what's happening. If you get in the game, you got a chance to win, and we're going to win. And that's all it's all about. And then we'll see everybody this Sunday at 2:30 at 346 North 20th Street. Black men, come on out. We're just going to have a little rally to show our support for people in the community, and just be there. And bring your sons, like that Million Man March thing. Bring your sons and let them know that you can vote, and take them to the polls and do those things like that. That get our kids activated. And then if you need some voter registrations, I got them here at the shop. I got absentee registrations. I can get them all out. I can mail them to you. I'll give you some stamps. I help you out with anything you need. But
all right, Al.
Let's do it. I'm in the game. I've been a winner all my life.
And Black women, you can bring your husband, your boyfriend, your kids, bring them out with you. Women are invited to be a part of this rally. We want to kick this off with a community engaged and saying, we're going to make this thing happen in Columbus, just like we did on the abortion issue in the state of Ohio. So.
And stay connected to Columbus Black, because we are all going to be funneling information to and through Columbus Black. You know, when we have established communication portals, we have to make use of them and become our own validators and educators and communicators. So Ohio Unity Coalition will be posting everything that we have around opportunities and jobs, et cetera. So, you know, let's stay united in our communication and our strategy, so that everyone knows where to come to get information on what to do.
Thank you so much for that plug.
Thank you, Kevin.
It wasn't shameless. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that we have the platform. Our team has worked really hard to be in this place, in this space. My co-owner is Sherry Lloyd, my wife, and we were just talking about the platform and how we want to make sure we engage the community and make sure that everybody understands this platform is here for you. And yes, we will be sharing more and more information and knowledge as we lead up, not just to Election Day, but beyond that, right?
That's right.
This platform is here for you all for that particular purpose. So with that being said, listen, I'm honored, right? It has definitely been a pleasure to have you all on with us today. Tracy Maxwell Heard, Dr. Carter D. Womack, and Al Edmonson, y'all have done a phenomenal job to educate our community on the importance of the 2024 election at all levels, all right? So as you all know, this is a countdown to Election Day 2024. Look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday. We're working on our guests and our panelists, so stand by. The event that Al just mentioned and Carter talked about this Sunday, they want everybody, every gender, come on out. We will send that out via email blast. So if you currently receive our emails, you'll receive it. If you don't, go to columbusblack.com right now, and there's going to be a pop-up, and you can sign up, and you'll start to get our emails. That way you'll be in the loop, as Tracy just mentioned. So with that being said, I appreciate each and every one of you, and we're going to go ahead and wrap up in our normal fashion. In order to be more successful in your future, you need to understand a little bit more about your past. That's the reason why we just had this amazing conversation, and I hope y'all just had a blast. So with that being said, y'all, deuces, I'm out. We'll catch y'all later. Take care. Be safe out there and go vote. Hey, by the way, early voter registration ends on October 7th, right? So we got 90 days to the election. We got 60 to get registered. So you got less time, and then it's on. Early voting at that point. Let's go.
All right.
All right, y'all. Take care.
Thank you, brother.
Take care. Thank you.
All right.